flexing, rolling through the SWAT. Repping for the city, hear him in the parking lot. Houston written across the jersey, ain't gon' never stop. Just fans got me tuning in, waiting for the drop. Astros, Texas, Rockets, Dynamo, they coming with it. When they pull up, got the city sitting on a fitted. Straight up A-Leaf, hold it down, ain't gon' never quit it. Just fans got me tuning in, let my dogs get it. Southwest A-Leaf, Texas, throw down here and it's so infectious. We ride for the Houston Astros, Rockets, Dynamo, and them Texans.
How's it going, everybody? It's Carlos, your host of the Just Fans podcast, and I'm here with the one and only Rios. How's it going, Rios?
I'm pretty good. Just woke up from a nap, so I feel refreshed.
Oh, I'm glad that you had time for a nap, sir. That's great. It must be nice.
It is.
Yeah. Hey, and of course, today we are joined by, man, the one and only. He's been on our show before, and he was such a great guest. We have to invite him back because the one and only Glenn Davis. Glenn, how's it going? How is your day so far?
Carlos, Rios, guys, it's always fun to talk to you. By the way, you got me pumped up with the intro to your show. I love that. That's some great work there. I'm fresh off doing a little soccer matter, so I'm ready to keep the soccer talk rolling.
Oh, exactly. There you go. So, hey, listen. So, the Dynamo, that's one thing I wanted to talk about first. Our local Houston Dynamo here. And the reason I have to mansplain it, I guess, is because there's other people from other states watching us that watch us too. So I was like, our local soccer team, the Houston Dynamo, their last season, they ended up in a pretty good position, if you want, to say the least. And, this season, we're just in how do you call it, in June now, and the Dynamo just finished off against the Portland Timbers, and now we're heading on to Saturday. I'm trying to believe, is it Atlanta? I think that we're going that the Dynamo's going against.
Atlanta will be their next team on
Atlanta. So we tied that game, but I wanted to talk about one specific player that apparently Sebastian. Okay, I'm gonna mispronounce the name. Kowalczyk, is that correct?
Kowalczyk.
There you go. Learn something new every day. Kowalczyk, midfielder, kind of turned striker, right? And apparently he's kind of looking pretty decent. What is your opinion on Sebastian? Again, one more time,
Kowalczyk.
Kowalczyk. What is your opinion on Sebastian Kowalczyk there, Glenn?
Yeah, so I really like him a lot. He's a really nice young man. I had him on my show as well on an interview. Look, he's scored in 2 straight games now. He doesn't have a history of scoring a lot of goals. He's filling a role that Ben Olsen wants right now, and that's essentially you're not playing with a striker, a legit striker, or a number 9. You're playing with a withdrawn forward. A lot of people call it a false 9, whatever kind of fun name you want to come up with.
Yeah.
He's not a typical forward. He plays a bit off of center backs. So you don't have somebody who's deep occupying center backs, but he's got an incredible work ethic. He's got an incredible desire to make it here in MLS. He was so refreshing to talk to. You root for him in a big, big way. Another interesting thing is he's very much Ben Olsen-like in the way he plays. Because Ben's not the biggest guy. Ben was always a fighter, very intense, gave you every ounce of sweat equity he had as a player. So I can see why, there are times when coaches, the qualities that they have, if they see him in other players, it's important to them. But he fits their system currently for what they're doing, which is pressing game, a work ethic game. But I think now he's gotten into some good goal scoring positions, and he's taken goals in the last 2 games. So, they have to be happy with that and what he's doing right now. But I think, as we all know, the real solution is ultimately in finding more attacking players and a legit number 9.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Right now, yeah, like you said, he's filling in a role. At the moment it's working, but it's not going to be substantial. It's not going to keep working long term. Yeah. And so yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's not going to be working long term. You do have players that support him. Obviously, Hector Herrera being a good part of last week's game as well, being such a good distributor and stuff like that. So honestly, yeah, right now it's the what's the term they call it, Mr. Right Now, not Mr. Long Term or whatnot.
Yeah, and again, look, I mean, this is MLS. I mean, I know I mentioned this on the last show to you, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but into these last two games where the Dynamo have now scored, they now have 4 multi-goal games. They scored 5 goals in the last 2 games. This is all great. Prior to that, though, you have to remember they were 28 out of 29th in the league in goals scored. They played games against Austin that they should have taken the full 3 points because they deserved it. And you want to take what you deserve, but you can't take what you deserve without scoring goals. This remains the issue. Now, the other part of it is, look, as long as you hang around 7, 8, or 9 in MLS, 60+% of the teams are going to make the playoffs. You have time to solve your problems, much like last year. And, Ronstadt's been on my show recently saying, there's going to be 3 or 4 signings based on some of the new rules in MLS. So the question is, who and what type of signings will they be? Will it be a really legitimate, experienced number 9 goal scorer that you're going to say, okay, it's a pretty good chance this guy's going to bang in some goals for us and help lift us and take us on a bit of a run? Or is it an under 22 initiative, which maybe turns like Aliou Ibrahim, who's got a lot of talent, but not necessarily has scored a lot of goals in MLS for you? So, these are all the things that inquiring minds want to know.
Rios, what is your take on Sebastian here?
Yeah, it's kind of not at the same level, but kind of similar to how Real Madrid had to play this season. They didn't really have a true number 9 with Benzema going to Saudi Arabia. They didn't have a true number 9. Joselu, he had his moments, but he was not the guy that's going to, fill Karim Benzema's boots. So they kind of had to be creative in the formations. It's kind of similar to the Dynamo have done a few times, but being in that diamond formation, having a guy like Jude Bellingham, midfielder, typically plays a little bit further back, having him play a little bit deeper in there, being your top goal scorer. And I think that's something that they're doing to a certain extent as well with Sebastian. Well, just a guy that's not normally known for scoring goals, just having to play him deeper up the field to, make up for that lack of a true number 9.
I think he has 5 goals overall.
Goals from Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. So I think it might be a little easier for Don Carlo.
Yeah,
just a smidgen.
I don't think he's struggling as much.
I mean, we love that guy as a manager. I mean, I just love what he represents. Real Madrid wins it for the 15th time. They didn't play the best football, I don't think. But I love Ancelotti. I think he's such a great representative for football. Nobody's done what he's done when it comes to winning the Champions League. And, now he's got a little bit of an issue, which is a champagne problem with Kylian Mbappe coming next year. And both him and Vinicius love playing on the left side. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens on that one. Exactly. Really quick, our friend Nick from the Baca Show. What's up, fellas? I see y'all talking football tonight. And he has a question, I guess. So what's the ceiling for the men's national team?
Ooh, what's the ceiling? I think with the 2026 World Cup being here, the ceiling should be trying to win a World Cup for the first time ever. You're on your home soil. You've got the best team of assembled talent you've ever had in history, playing with big clubs around the world, likes of McKennie, Pulisic, Gio Reyna on loan. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a question mark around him, not his talent. But, you have to raise the bar higher in order to get there. And I think since we're one of the host countries, along with Mexico and Canada, I think, this is a time to really make a legitimate run for it on your home soil.
Agreed. It's just, I don't think the U.S. has ever had this many players that have played in international soil before, right? This is the first time we're looking at it in its history. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it was all accelerated by the fact that we didn't qualify for that World Cup. You guys remember that
2018? Yeah.
Fateful night where we got bladed by the Soca Warriors down in Trinidad and Tobago. Apparently the U.S. had gone out and partied before it. I think a harsh lesson was learned on that one. But I think the silver lining there was you accelerated the development of these guys. You moved out people that weren't going to be a part of the next, potentially the World Cup. You were able to give these guys more opportunity, and these younger guys have made this World Cup team their own. I mean, I love the personalities of the Musas and the Weahs and McKennie's energy and Pulisic, and we're watching them mature in front of our eyes.
That's true. It's such a young team, and then the fact that they basically built their own culture around it. They built their own culture with the men's national team. That it was like you said, they got rid of what wasn't needed, and whoever decided, whoever stayed was in it to win it, essentially, right?
Yeah,
And
it made things become vivid with disappointment, right? And teams getting eliminated, right? Things become vivid. There was no other way to go then. Excuse me. Accelerate the development of these young guys. It had to happen. Naturally, the urgency was there. These guys have claimed it. They've made their team their own. Similar thing going on with Mexico right now. They got outplayed by the U.S. That hurts. And now maybe people are listening a little bit more to Jaime Lozano, but more importantly, you've moved on the memos. Raul Jimenez, as great a player as he was, he's never been the same after the head injury. And now you're giving an opportunity to youth. And I think if you're a Mexico fan, you got to be, cautiously optimistic about going into this, because these are the types of cleansings that have to occur with teams. And it's never easy. And the timing is always difficult to move on players that have done so much, for your national team or your club team. But the fact is, these are moments where you got to be brave and bold, and sometimes you get a little bit of help, like the U.S. did from not qualifying for a World Cup.
No, 100%. I agree with you. Before I move on to this part, it's the Diving Deep Show said goats. Thank you. And then they wanted to ask you, Glenn, a question. Where does Kalen Carr rank amongst Dynamo attackers / forwards of all time?
Ooh, I would say he would definitely fit in the unique column because of his pace. I remember the great goal he scored in the MLS Cup final, either 11 or 12, kicked the corner flag. Great young man. He's now in a broadcasting career now. Attackers or forwards?
I think you put attackers / forwards.
Okay, yeah. So listen, you got Brian Ching, you got Dwayne De Rosario. That's the upper. Those are the guys riding in first class. I think what you liked about him was that he was a penetrator. He was a threat behind defenses. That's the thing I think you liked about Kalen, because he could absolutely fly. Then you had Dominic Kinnear, liked a lot of these big traditional center forwards like Nate Jakwa. But I would say, he's definitely in the top, I think 5 or 6. I don't know if that's numbers wise. And then, of course, Krzysztof Wondolowski got traded to San Jose. That was one of the most remarkable things ever, and then goes on to become the all-time leading goal scorer in MLS. But he wasn't banging in goals down here. But I used to hear all the time, he's the best in training. He's scoring goals, Probably didn't really get the opportunity he deserved. But, Brian Ching was your great target man, great back to goal, great aerial presence. You're playing on Robertson Field Stadium a lot, so you get a lot of penalty area play, and he was great with that. And then you had Dwayne powering from behind. So those are the top 2, but I think Kalen then falls in kind of behind them. I don't know who I'm missing here. It's definitely not Koke. If you even remember, it's definitely not Franco Carraccio. There's a couple other guys. I'm sure I missed somebody, but I'm trying to pull back some names. It definitely wasn't Adi Akinbai, although he was one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. But Kalen had the penetrating ability and really became a threat behind defenses. And I think you need that balance. You need that. You need depth. You need width. You need these all types of these things in attacks.
They wrote in theirs, and maybe these are some of the names that you let me know what you think. He wrote, I go in.
Oh, we forgot Will and Manotas. Yes, 100%.
Manotas, oh yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that. So yeah, I like this. I like this here. I mean, Bruin on goal scored probably, but I honestly, I would put Dwayne De Rosario as the greatest overall attacker that could do a variety of things. Brian Ching was the best typical number 9 center forward. And listen, Will Bruin had a lot of goals. If he wasn't traded, he'd be the leading goal scorer all time here. And Mauro Manotas was a wonderful thing to watch and blossom. Boy, I'm glad you helped me with that, because if you didn't help me with that, I'd look pretty bad not remembering Will Bruin and Manotas. But that's a nice top 5. I like that. That's great effort.
Yeah.
I would arrange them a little differently.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally forgot about Manotas. I'm like, I know there's someone that we're forgetting. And there we go.
And that was an excellent signing, and that was somebody who developed here, and that hasn't happened very often. That was great, and he ended up playing in Liga MX, as we know, with Tijuana and whatever else.
So the Dynamo are set to face off this weekend against Atlanta, who are currently 13th in the East, and the Dynamo right now are 7th in the West. Overall, it looks like that should be a definite win for the Dynamo based on their how they've been playing or whatnot. So I'm gonna say that I think that would take that as a win against Atlanta.
Is it home or away?
It's away, yeah, in Atlanta.
So that complicates.
See,
It does.
Yeah, that's been
The away part kind of what gets me too. I on paper I think it's a win, but when you brought up away, I was like, wait a minute, let me think about that real quick. But
I think Atlanta United just had a very good result. Now they fired their coach, which is always Gonzalo Pineda's out there, so there's always a whole rebooting of everybody, as you guys know, where, hey, you got to reestablish yourself to the organization again, and a different coach. I don't know if it's an interim coach right now, but so that complicates it. By the way, that's a week from Saturday. So that's
is it a week from Saturday? My apologies.
It's June 15th. Yeah, because they're on the international break now.
That's what it is, yeah.
But I had to double check it. So
no, you're good. Appreciate you helping me on that one.
June 15th, and then the Dynamo come back home against Seattle.
Are you at all surprised how that at the how do you call it, where the Seattle, I know this is not on the Dynamo part, but where the Sounders are right now?
Not necessarily. I mean, they're getting a little stick from their fan base. Our good friend Craig Weibel, who played for Houston's up there and is the technical director or the sporting director, whichever name he's going by. But look, Seattle, it may be now, quote unquote, in Seattle, a rebuild, but they know how to get it done. They know how to find players. I would not sleep on them. I would not sleep on Portland. They've kind of gone out of the Nicholas Ladero era, trying to move it forward into a different place now. So, and again, teams that we look at right now in MLS could look completely different in a couple months based on the transfer window. Happens all the time. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. That's why it's almost funny that, when I hear people go, well, it's a must-win game. It's really kind of hard for me, Carlos and Rios, to say it's a must-win game in MLS in May or April.
It's just too early, It's just way too early,
and it's just the way the league is structured, right?
It's like baseball. I like to say, we're big time Astros fans, and whenever at the beginning, yes, I mean obviously the season has turned what it has for the Astros, but at the beginning, when people panic about it, it's just like, well, there's still a lot of games left to play. Well, it sounds it's
true. Like after game one, they're like, guys, we still got 161 games left. It's like with MLS, we still got like 20 some odd games left. Like
if you're Liverpool and you draw your first two games and lose to, and don't take any points in your first 4 or 5 games to the point where you're supposed to be competing for a title, then maybe it is a must-win game. But playoffs are a part of the American culture. It's a part of our leagues. It's been adopted by other countries. I think Mexico looked at it and
they did, yeah.
Took the playoff system. It's engaging and it keeps people engaged because you're never out of it mathematically in MLS to like the two rounds left in the season. On the other hand, then you can sit here and you can say, well, the urgency is not that great. Would Pat Onstad and the Houston Dynamo have to be more urgent in finding a striker if it was different circumstances and not a playoff system? Absolutely. But they're playing the game by the rules, and they're going to wait on it. They don't have to go find a striker right away and maybe take a little bit more risk. They can be a little bit more calculated. So it's just the differences. I think both have their pros and cons. I, for one, don't like 2 champions being given away in Mexico because it's just like, 1 week, it just seems to come way too fast. I'm a big fan of meritocracy. Generally, older people are like me that are, I want competition.
Of course.
I want things to be done so that the fan base is engaged all the time. I don't want a 48 team World Cup. I think you're going to demystify it and hurt it. It's not going to have the same sense of uniqueness, which is more unique than any event in the world. So that's the way I look at it. I want competition. I want meritocracy. And I don't want mass tournaments, but I'm afraid I'm losing that fight.
Yeah, you're eventually going to come to a point where I don't want to say lose the battle because that's a strong thing to say, but it's like the more you add on, it's like there's the sense of competition kind of goes away.
I mean, look how many tournaments they've added in the last 3 or 4 years. They've added 2 or 3 already. And they're thinking of adding more. I'm like, man.
Well, what about you guys with the Open Cup and Leagues Cup? I mean, how do you feel about that? The Leagues Cup is getting monetized. It just got another sponsor. Everybody was upset that the Open Cup hasn't been nurtured, but it hasn't been nurtured. U.S. Soccer hasn't nurtured it. So how do you guys feel about those two tournaments? Because, it's a continued build with MLS and Liga MX.
As far as the League Cups, I do like it. I remember when it first started, I think it was 4 teams, and then it continues to adding more, which is it's a little bit more exciting, especially seeing, the best of MLS going against the best of Liga MX.
Yeah, MX, yeah.
As long as they continue to build it and not give up on it like they did with the U.S. Open Cup, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you're not that big a fan of the U.S. Open Cup, Rios?
Not really. So they just never really got behind it.
You don't like the FA Cup, we got New Mexico United who's plowing through MLS teams. They've knocked off 2. They're going to play LAFC. They're coached by a former Houston area youth player, Eric Quill. And it's a hell of a story. And they draw over 10, 11,000 people to all their games in New Mexico. They got people from all corners of the state that come down to their games. But listen, I also like, as long as it's genuine, I love the Liga MX MLS stuff, but it seems to be getting tamer. There's not the edge that was there during the Superliga back in the days.
Yeah, I think again they may go back to where we talked about it loses a little bit of its value. So I could see that point, Glenn. I really can. After a while, it's like, oh, here we go again. It's that, but also I hate this. I grew up watching Liga MX, right? I think I've told you I'm a Pumas fan. So I grew up watching Pumas fan. My brother's a big Pumas fan. And so we grew up, even though we're from Guanajuato, so León is a team that's there. Everybody's a León fan or whatever. But Pumas is a team that I grew up watching. So obviously, when you start seeing these Liga MX, Pumas is going against whatever team in the MLS or whatever. At first, it does get exciting, and then after a while, you're like, okay, we're doing this again, and again, and it's just okay. So it's it almost kind of loses value. Maybe there was something else that was added onto it. I'm not sure exactly what that could be. That could add on more to it. I'll give you an example. I watched one of the games that I watched that I was at the Dynamo was Dynamo versus Santos, and I saw a lot of Santos fans, but it was just Santos. But I'm like, ooh, I was the only one. I was one of the few in my section wearing a Dynamo jersey.
I remember that game. I called that game, and it's funny how even in Austin, it's when MLS teams, Leagues Cup, I don't know if the attendance was that great. And to me, it's basically bragging rights for your league, right?
I agree. It's bragging rights. I want to see more people out there. Believe me, I know how crazy.
We didn't win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I was pulling for Columbus. I think our whole league was. And, I want to see U.S. teams playing against the UEFA champions and all of that good stuff. But, I always love the Mexico-U.S. rivalry, but I don't think it's as intense as it once was. I don't think the Mexican national team playing in Azteca, I don't think you don't have that mystique anymore. Nobody's worried about going in there and playing Mexico like they once did. And I don't even think the players are connected to the mystique of the Carlos Hermosillos and, all the legendary Mexican national team players.
And see, I grew up in the early 90s, so I had how do you call it? El Brody as a goalie. You know what I mean? And so I grew up watching him with his colorful attire, just in the background, the wild '90s soccer attires that he had in the background. Jorge Ramos not Jorge Ramos. I'm sorry.
Campos.
Campos. Jorge Campos back there. That was fun because how short he was and his ability to jump and cover that goal, like that to me was top notch, and it was exciting. My brother grew up. He played goalie, obviously recreationally, but so he was like a big fan, and he introduced me to all that.
Yeah.
And so obviously those are fond memories that I have with Jorge Campos, and it's just like and that was when you had a pretty, a good team in Mexico, but now it's just like it's been consistently for the last few years. It's been not as exciting as a Mexico fan, obviously, as you can see that I'm wearing the jersey here. To watch it in recent time, like it's crazy to see,
especially against the US, because it's basically a one-sided rivalry at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like okay, you see it, but I'm not as excited to watch the US Mexico rivalry anymore, just because like the players right now. I mean, we're looking at an aging Memo Ochoa.
Yeah, but he's out. I think they're sweeping. So I think with this new roster, what you got going on with Mexico, like I mentioned before, was the fact that, Chucky Lozano's moved on, Memo Ochoa, Raul Jimenez, they're not on this Copa America roster. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're done, but it looks like there is a move towards youth. And I think the U.S. beating Mexico and beating them pretty handily, I think that's accelerated, like we said.
But it's exposure, like you said,
right?
Yeah, it's exposure, like you said, to the youth, and so that and that type of stage, it's exposure. It's great playing quality. It's exposure to them. It gives them that experience or whatnot in a big stage, because all eyes of the Western Hemisphere are watching this thing. So, I would say it's great in that aspect for the Mexican national team, but it kind of loses at the same time. It's like it loses its value. You know what I mean? Not a value, but it loses kind of like, all right, you're not used to seeing these guys here. But the exciting part, though, in all that is, okay, let's see what these young guys have.
I think it's exciting. I think the time for it was important to happen now. I think that was important for the U.S. to accelerate all the youth, and they got a boost because you didn't qualify for the World Cup. So it had to happen, and it has to happen all the time. And rebutting teams is not an easy thing. We understand Chucky Lozano's not maybe the national team player that he once was. He had serious injuries. Ochoa has been there a long time. I mean, the national team's not there to serve him playing as many World Cups as he can get, and he's a great goalkeeper. He's had a great career, but there are a lot of youth on this team, and I think these are moments that can be extremely exciting, because you got to blossom new stars, and there's never a great time to move people on. It's tough. Some of these decisions people have to make, ending people's careers who aren't willingly going. It's not easy, but it's the way it is. And the one thing we always remember, the Mexican national team remains, you don't play on it forever.
No, 100%. I mean, again, it's crazy that it wasn't too long where I remember having Chicharito on there, when you had Carlos Vela on there, when you had Gio also, but now he's Giovanni Dos Santos, sorry. And but that, to me, gosh, the fall of I know that's a different thing, but Giovanni Dos Santos, I had so much hope for this kid to be like the future of it, and then he was playing in Barcelona. I mean, and to that level, and then it was just the decline.
So when I played in the '80s, his uncle was Beto Dos Santos. They weren't born then, and Beto came from Club America to play on the Houston Dynamos. Beto's brother was Zizinho, also at Club America. They had a Brazilian background, and so the two sons, Jonathan, who's a great young man, nice kids, and I've interviewed him. Super good interview. Him and Gio were moved at a very young age, like Messi, and Zizinho was given a coaching job at Barcelona,
Mhm.
And that's how they were in La Masia, and they got into the whole system. So it's an interesting story. It's got a connection to Houston. Beto was an excellent midfielder, very technical, came here very young, and has had an outstanding career, not only in Houston, but also in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
coaching and working with youth his entire post-playing career.
Yeah. That's
He
awesome.
played on the Hot Shots too, indoors. I forgot to mention.
He what now?
He played on the Houston Hot Shots indoor team as
Oh,
well.
no kidding. The Hot
Yeah,
Shots?
he was on the Hot Shots also.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we I think didn't we like we used to because we used to Rios and I we used to play indoor soccer. We weren't good. Don't just to throw that out there. We were not good
So you can't let him talk for you, Rios.
at
Rios looks like a hard hitting defender who laid the rubber on a few people.
Yeah.
Not wrong there.
Like, yeah, sure.
Ramos, I think. I think you might have maimed a few guys in local indoor facilities.
Yeah. No, it was not a pretty sight. They used to put us on defense, and most of the time it was not a good thing. But nonetheless, that's a different story. We were at Southwest Indoor over there in Stafford, and so the Hot Shots, right, Reels, they would play there every once in a while, or this rendition of them. I think we had a friend of ours, Jose Oliverieta, that used to play with them as well. He's a pretty good guy.
That was their practice facility. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's awesome seeing them, but I had no idea that he played for the Hot Shots.
Beto, he came with the Dynamos outdoor, and then he jumped over to the indoor team. Yep.
Nice. All right. I love that. It was a great story. See, I love these stories. I love these stories.
Right?
Of things I have no clue at all.
Always learn something new.
We have lots of these, but we have not done a good job in Houston, including myself, of telling the history. And I was speaking at there's a Houston soccer committee, and I mentioned that we've really been negligent in telling our history. You don't stand in history every day, but you make sure that it's passed on soccer-wise. I mean, we go all the way back to the 60s with the first ever game in the Astrodome between West Ham United and Real Madrid. Okay, now there's a boatload of Real Madrid fans in Houston who don't know that story. That was the 8th wonder of the world at the time. And believe me, I was a little kid, so I've only learned this myself when I came to Houston. But West Ham United's captain was Bobby Moore. Well, the year before in '66, Bobby Moore is the guy who lifted the World Cup, and the only World Cup that England ever won. So they were playing in the Astrodome. Then they got a pro team there called the Houston Stars, and there's still a couple of guys from the Stars. Billy Safidis was a Greek who played at Panathinaikos, also played in Dallas. He was on that team. He's still here. He's contributed heavily, coaching, refereeing. This guy's done everything in the Houston soccer community. And then, you graduated on to the Houston Hurricane. You had an indoor team called Summit Soccer. Then you had the Houston Dynamos outdoor, Houston Hot Shots indoor, and then you got the return of professional soccer with San Jose being relocated here. So got an amazing history, but we need to tell it. We need to document it. And why should Portland and Seattle be the only ones who tap into this? And by the way, this can help put people in the seats. And
I agree. Right now, what you
helps with the right here and right now marketing.
I agree. Right now, you see this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you see this happening a lot in Houston sports recently. Like the people want to know the history, the culture. Look at the Astros. Look at the Texans now with these vibrant colors that they have going on with the light blue, obviously resembling of the Oilers' history or whatnot. But that's a whole different story because
I mean, even down to facilities and infrastructure. Yeah. I'm practicing with the Houston Dynamos, and what am I making? $1,400 a month in an apartment, or we're not getting rich doing this. We're practicing at then Houston Baptist University. Right. And most of the guys on my team are pulling in Volkswagen Rabbits or Jeeps or trucks and stuff. And then, you're in the locker room shower and you hear, "Hey, soccer guys, get out of here." And it's the Rockets and Elijah Wan and Bill Fitch and that era of team coming in with Sampson. And these guys are towering over you, and you're toweling off trying to get out of there because they're coming to HBU because they don't have a facility, right? Yeah. You're practicing at Houston. So it's when your lens goes back a little deeper through time, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Dude, that's amazing. These are great stories.
Wow.
Why aren't we funding this?
I got 1,000,001 of these. I mean, I got 1,000,001. I got things where two teams are on the same commercial flight playing in the playoffs, and there's a fight that breaks out in the plane. I mean, there should be. I should probably, I put some stuff on paper, but I
was gonna say, why is there not a book about this? The Houston culture of soccer or something like that, something in those lines, and just
there would be some things that would not be allowed in the book. But
yeah, we can, that's what we could always edit those out later, like that, But not all history is as clean as it perceives.
Jim Kelly was here with the Houston Gamblers, the USFL. We used to go around to all these events, and each team would have a representative. And of course, we were the soccer team. We weren't as popular. We'd get on page 7 of the Houston Post because you actually had 2 newspapers then. But times have changed. We played at Butler Stadium. We played at Del Mar high school facilities. Yeah. And then we'd go on the road, and we might play in the current camping ground stadium in Orlando, which is the Citrus Bowl, or the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. You'd play in big stadiums, or you'd play in a high school stadium. That was kind of it.
So awesome. So to go to the comments, Chris Flores says Glenn the GOAT. There you go, greatest of all time.
Chris, you're very nice. I'm not sure about that, but thank you for the compliment.
And then a friend of ours, his name is Rafael, goes by El Capitano Fuche, says, hello, everyone. Rafael building. Carlos and Rio, salute. It's almost time for Copa America. So our friend Rafael here in Venezuela, so I'm sure he's rooting for Venezuela in the Copa America.
Tinto. The Vino Tinto.
Yeah. There you go. So with that bringing me to this point of Copa America here, so I wanted to go over the different groups from A to D. So in Group A, you got Argentina, Peru, Chile, and Canada. Group B, you got Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. Group C, you got USA, Uruguay, Panama, Bolivia, and finally Group D, you have Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Costa Rica. All in those. Rio, I want to ask you on this one. For Group A, I mean, it's Argentina, Peru, Chile. Dude, I see Argentina taking that one.
Oh, it's totally Peru. Come on now.
It's Peru.
Yeah, that's Argentina's to lose. I mean, there's no way they lose that group.
Yeah, I was gonna say in this thing, it's just it's Argentina, man. It's
Argentina and then Canada.
Yeah. So the good news, that's a good call too, because that's Jesse Marsh is now going to be the coach of Canada. I think he's going to be in charge for Copa America. I'm not sure, but the other thing is for us in Houston, we get a great benefit. We want Argentina to win that group, and we're going to go with you, Rios and Carlos, because that means Messi will come and play in Houston on July 4th.
True.
So we'll get 2 visits from him this summer, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I know exactly. For Inter Miami, right? With
they'll play teams.
Oh, how's he gonna handle that Houston Heat? That's gonna be crazy.
Well, there'll be a dome on it's energy. He's fine.
Oh, he's okay.
It's NRG, so they'll be all right.
Tigers just fired or Robert Siboldi stepped down. It's a really weird story. I got to look into it a little bit more, but there's some weird stuff about giving information out. Tigers will have a new coach come August.
So I'm looking at Group B, and it's like I said, Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. Oh, I'm gonna be a homer on that one, and I'm gonna take Mexico. Even with this young team, this young roster we have in there. Rios, what do you think about that one?
I'm gonna go with Jamaica.
Jamaica. Okay. Glenn, I don't know if you want to chime in on that because I know you're not much of a predictor.
I'm not into the predict. I can play along. I just got to get the groups pulled up here. So say it one more time.
Sure. The Group B is Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. Rios picks Jamaica.
Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica.
Again, you don't have to if you don't want to. I know that you're not a
Venezuela and Ecuador.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I like that. Okay.
Venezuela's got some players now.
Yeah. So Group C, I'm pulling for America over here. I'm going for USA. I'm going for the boys here in the Stars and Stripes. Rios, what you got on that one?
Who was in Group C again? It was the U.S.,
Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia.
Ooh.
My fiance's like, oh yeah, US, definitely.
Yeah, it's got to be U.S. on that one. U.S. and probably Uruguay in second place.
Yeah, Uruguay is yeah. Glenn, if you want to join on that one.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Here, I finally got it, so I can look at it. Okay, so yeah, USA and Uruguay. Panama will be competitive.
Yeah.
Remember, Coco Carrasquilla knocked the U.S. out in one of the tournaments.
Yep.
It's a downtime for Bolivia. So yeah, agreeing with you guys. U.S. and Uruguay.
Yeah, and then finally, Group D: Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Costa Rica. I'm gonna take Brazil on that one. Rios.
It's going to be a close one because Brazil's struggled lately on these big tournaments, which is bizarre because they have all these big name players. But I think they could. I think they win that group with Colombia in second place.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Colombia to win the group over Brazil. Colombia hasn't lost in over 20 games. Nestor Lorenzo's an Argentine coach. We're going to get a look at them here. We'll also get a look at them Saturday against the U.S. But yeah, I mean, it's Brazil and Colombia going through. I would agree with both you guys. Paraguay, an outside shot. Costa Rica's down. I mean, they haven't rebutted their national team since that great World Cup success.
Oh, 100% agreed. All right. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to this. Glenn, I have to tell you, so this summer, I don't know if I told you much. This last summer, actually, that's what about to be here. I went to Argentina for the first time.
Wow.
Okay. Buenos Aires. My fiance's mom lives there. Shout out to them. And so I got the privilege to go and visit River Plate Stadium. And I got to visit Boca Juniors Stadium. So
wow,
it was amazing. So Boca Juniors has a museum on the side that kind of tells you the whole history, and you got to see some of the Maradona stuff going on. Also, the trophies from like the 1930s, 1920s, all that stuff, and you get to see all that history. So the reason I'm bringing this up is when you were telling me about this history, like these guys have a legitimate museum dedicated to that particular history with different things that they do, and I'd love to see something like this here in the city, where it pays homage. I'm sure somebody's got an old pair of cleats or whatever hanging around from, and
hey, when I drop and leave, you can come into my house. There's a lot of stuff here from the past.
And I think
I know people who have it too.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's a culture thing, and I realized when I went there. So I'm gonna tell you the difference. And I gravitated more towards Boca Juniors, for the simple reason of, so when I went to La Monumental, which is it's River Plate Stadium, I went and they were playing away, but I just went to just see the culture. So it's in the more Upper East side of town. It's almost reminiscent to like Real Madrid, Barcelona kind of a situation, in their version of it, I guess. So I didn't see that connection. I didn't feel that much of a connection. Yes, there were people out there, but it didn't have a connection. I just didn't feel it. But it was okay. I got to see it. Awesome. Then I went to Boca Juniors Stadium. Okay, La Bombonera. So I went. They weren't even playing that day. People were out there partying, dancing. Like they had a whole thing around, and they weren't even playing that day. This was an off day. And they made you feel welcome. They made you feel at home. They made you feel great. Everybody, they were cooking. It was almost like to understand it here, they were like tailgating on an off day, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It was that feel. And so they were, you hear my dogs in the background, Glenn?
Yeah.
By the way, how's your dog doing?
Here too, I think. Osa, where are you? Osa, come here. Come here.
Yeah. And so it was the feel. To me, I was thinking, this is what a soccer team represents. It represents the people. There it is. Also,
there.
Osa, turn around. Okay.
There it is.
Put her down. They're gonna say I'm doing something bad to my dog, mistreating him.
Right? That's a thumbnail we're gonna use.
Right.
Glenn Davis, animal cruelty. No,
That's cool. That's a cool story.
yeah, it was amazing. It was such an amazing feel. I bought a jersey from there also because where else,
Right.
Of course it says Adidas and everything, but whatever. It's still an amazing feel. I bought the jersey there. It was.
Yeah,
Hold on, let me introduce you to my new adopted dog, Leia.
that's a cool dog.
Yeah, so we found her in our complex, and I guess she had been wandering around for a few months. And since the last time you were on our show, she wasn't on our show. I didn't even have her, didn't know she existed, but we found her. It was coincidentally after we came from Argentina. Once we landed back in the States, I think within 2 days, she was roaming around our complex.
I love those brown ears.
Oh yeah, she's like, yeah. There's some Jack Russell in there. She's like, I want to get out of here. I'm gonna keep camera. So here you go.
Yeah, that dog's.
She's like, put me down, human. Put me down.
Yes.
Oh, because she's it's because she's a River Plate fan. That's why. No, I'm just kidding. No, so she's a River Plate fan. Yeah, I see the red in you. No, and so back to that story, I felt the connection, and I think that's what it should be like. I feel like our teams should have a connection with the city. I really like the purple shirt that they have going on, that they're making a connection with the city, with the culture of the city. And I think that's important because, like I said, once you start connecting more with the city and resonating, I think you're going to get some more people in those seats as well. But I'm telling you, that atmosphere that I experienced in Argentina and Buenos Aires,
Yeah.
I had never experienced that before, and it was an amazing feeling.
These brands, the Boca Juniors, the Manchester Uniteds, these clubs have gatekeepers. They have people that keep this alive. Now, when the ownership changes, my great friend Tom Clare, who was the author at Manchester, was worried that since American ownership and others came in, they were not going to continue to build off their history and remind people of it. And I think that we have to do more in Houston. I mean, we need a soccer museum or / Hall of Fame, and that could even be in the stadium. Maybe we need a part of the stadium that's got pictures of all the different eras and the dates, so people every time they're walking in the rotunda there can look at one wall and see what has come prior.
And see, the Dynamo is almost 20 years old.
They should have stuff like that.
Yeah, and
like the bigger teams in Europe, you could go on a tour, like you can tour the stadium, you can go on the pitch, the locker room, like the trophy cabinet, take pictures, stuff like that. That's something they should do for the Dynamo. We've been around long enough. There's enough history there.
I'd love to see that. Like have some sort of history.
Go back to the 60s. I mean, you want it to go back to the 60s, and then obviously the current day, but you want people to know this game has been around here a long time. It was brought here by immigrants. It's been played on fields all over. We have people that have left Houston that are thriving in coaching careers at top colleges, Notre Dame, the University of Connecticut, on, doing different things. USL Championship. Our fields have birthed so many people that love the game and are contributing at all levels, all over. And then you get into the college programs that have had history in our state and in our area. I mean, but it can be done pretty easily, really. But it just doesn't happen.
It just depends on the powers that be, at the end of the day. But hey, what's funny is that the last time you were here, we had something similar of what we can do better in our city regarding Houston soccer. But this time I feel like we got more in depth, more in depth than anything.
And I'm not going to be disrespectful, but when you have people that come from out of market, they don't understand the history, and they're looking through a shorter lens, and they don't understand it. It's not necessarily their fault. It is the job, though, to reach out to people who do know it more and who might know the market more. And it is, in my opinion, the job of the owner to hire locals that have a sense of soccer history here.
And
it doesn't happen. And
yeah, it's like, listen,
you're here and we're having this discussion because for me, you're leaving money on the table not doing things like this.
yeah,
You're leaving valuation of the club on the table. You're not weaving in all these people who had connection to all these teams. You're only making it about now and the current existence, or even just back to 2006.
Yeah.
And you're missing opportunity. It's very evident to me, but that's just kind of the way it's. And I'm not. I never, it gets taken it gets very misconstrued when I say these things because people get offended sometimes when I say this, but nobody's saying these things.
But it's not. But
These
it's not
are things that should be at a table,
right,
and be debated and talked about with adults intelligently. It's not a attempt to co-opt anything or make somebody feel uncomfortable. I mean, if somebody told me to go in and work for the Houston Astros, boy, I'd be tapping up every baseball mind going. If I was coming in there to work in a sport or organization I didn't know. And it's the sources and the people that you go to are very, very important. And there are people with tons of knowledge in Houston that, we are not tapping into when it comes to the MLS product and the NWSL product. And I say that confidently and I say that fairly. That's all.
yeah, I don't think it's I don't take it as, I don't think it's I don't know. Yeah, it's not like an offense thing. It's just being realistic. It's being realistic of an expectation that why wouldn't you want to get
celebrate
some
that
culture,
history.
history?
People like me want it to be ultra successful. People like me and many others in the community like yourselves know this should be a sellout every single game. We should have a vibe going. We should have a vibe going just like any other team in MLS that sells out. Why isn't our vibe as good as Austin?
Yeah.
More soccer history than Austin out the wazoo. Are you kidding me?
We have more history than Austin does.
It's not even close. Our international soccer content blows it out of the water. Nobody this summer is doing the volume, amount of games. Tell me another market that's going to see Messi twice outside of Miami. I don't know. But all potentially. They still have to win the group, but Rios predicted going with Rios. But you know what I'm saying? Hard discussions. I mean, these aren't even hard discussions. These are discussions
that should be happening.
I never understood why everybody seems super protective and doesn't want to reach out in a bigger way to those that might have a little deeper lens and knowledge.
And
I don't know.
Agreed.
Surprising.
It shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be taken out of context. All that we're saying is, I think the history of Houston soccer needs to be told. It needs to be told.
Why would I be considered a threat, or people that have knowledge? Why would they be considered a threat? I mean, I've spent my entire life here loving this city, and my entire life has been around soccer to, in many ways, some sacrifices that at some point you start maybe slightly regretting that you didn't do certain things, especially from the perspective of family, because you were chasing too much career and your passion for a game. But man, I mean, it's, I have so much pride in this city that, when I don't see that stadium filled over all these years, it hurts. It hurts. And it actually pushes you to the brink of being slightly angry, because at times, and there is no question, our soccer community and people have been disrespected here over the past. And I don't want to get dark, but that's true. We have been disrespected because the knowledge and the information that's out there. And I can tell you, there are people that don't go to the Dynamo that feel very strongly like this.
Yeah.
That were there in 2006, that were there before that promoting games. And I think, somebody's got to put it on the table if you want to advance things, or you can just keep doing the same things the way you are and be happy with it. Me personally, how was the NWSL team not drawing more? Come on.
Yeah.
1,000 people down there?
On a good day.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta, you have to begin to say that, it's not a rebuild anymore. This is perpetuity. This happens over and over. And the more it happens over and over, the more people get fatigued, right?
Yeah.
You get fatigued.
You get tired of it. Yeah. You're just like,
You get fatigued. And
here we go again.
You throw your hands up.
Yeah.
And, we're still not relevant in the media. Come on. Let's be honest. I mean, it's great things that you do. It's great that I do some things. It's great that others do podcasts and fan TV. But there isn't healthy pressure here. And we've talked about this before. There's no healthy pressure from the standpoint of something that we need and desire in order to excel and compete and be better. It's not here. Being honest and honesty is what we need.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like, there should be more that should be done, because we have the fan support. You got the history, but they just
nobody asks these questions. Nobody asks these questions.
It's a soccer city. Like, we've seen NRG Stadium get filled during Mexico games. We've seen it get packed.
No question. So, Austin can say the soccer city stuff.
Yeah, it's a
we were way ahead of it. We were way ahead of it, and Dallas can say they were ahead of it with us because they actually kicked things off in the state of Texas because they had the Dallas Tornadoes. Yeah. They stayed in the community and built it through clinics and coaching and all these things. But we're a soccer city back to the 60s. It's amazing and really should be celebrated, and the stories need to be told. But, at some point it just can't be, well, we're not drawing because it's Easter weekend or it's spring break or, we got 7.5 million people here. At what point do we want to get real about this and talk about the real problems of why we don't have better attendance? And I think we've become comfortable. I think we're happy with what we get, and that's the way we want to be when it comes to the MLS product and the NWSL product.
But that's
kind of sad, because
at that point you become stagnant.
As fans, as clubs, as media, media is going to go nuts when Messi comes. But you're not getting morning talk shows being critical. You're not even on morning talk radio hardly. The Dynamo. I mean, unless John and Lance bring me on, nobody else is doing anything with soccer on ESPN 97.5. These are all elements we need. You can't expect it to come to you. You have to go and earn it. And it just doesn't mean having a good team. It means a whole bunch of different things that have to come together. But listen, one thing we know, and you guys know this, and this is what makes Houston great. There are people that are flooding fields every night to play this game. They're buying tickets for international soccer. They're there, and they're called authentic soccer fans. And that keg has not been tapped.
And what's funny is, like there's organizations here like Real Madrid organizations that meet up at different bars and places to go support Real Madrid, a team from Spain. The Peña, yes. They have the Chelsea, the Bayou City Blues or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called.
Bayou City Blues.
Not even the bigger ones. They have a new Chelsea one, but Teams has got a fan club. I mean, Aston Villa's got a fan. They all have fan clubs. I mean, it's
a soccer city.
Killing it. Liverpool kills it.
Liverpool, yeah. It's a soccer city. There's people around, but what can we do to get those people in the stands? To watch Dynamo, to buy that orange jersey.
You have to express yourself to the organization.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
Express yourself to the organization. They want the feedback. There's no question they will.
Let me tell you that. And again, I'm going to relate this to NFL standards. The Texans, they were suffering in attendance for like 3 years straight, almost right after the whole debacle. Okay, what did the owner do? He consulted. Was it a committee built by fans and different people?
The fan
And
council, yeah.
fan council that they did, and they listened. Now you have new uniforms that are selling. I know because I just bought 2 of them myself. um, you have more people in the stands. Rios and I went to a game, and it was supposed. And honestly, coincidentally, ironically, it was called
Fan appreciation.
This is before this whole culture shift happened. It was called Fan Appreciation. I guess it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. There were more Jaguars fans than there were Texans. We know because we could hear it in the stands. Duval chants all over the stands.
Wow.
It was a really
Outnumbered.
to see.
It was like at least 3-1 Jaguars versus Texans fans.
Were those no-shows? Because at one point, globally in the world, the Texans were one of the most valued franchises in all of sports, and they were had a lot of big major soccer clubs. So were those just people not showing up? They were still selling the tickets, right?
It was protesting. It was protesting because
the tickets were still sold, and they didn't lose their season ticket base.
Rio, no, there were season ticket holders being sold. Rio's a good example. You were on a list, right, Rios, for season tickets?
Yeah, I remember the exact number 11,347.
And then what happened?
And so I want to say it was the summer of 2022. I got a email and a phone call like, hey, you moved up, you're available for a season tickets. I'm like, I don't want these.
I'm all right. And then I got an offer too, and I'm just a regular dude that obviously can't afford the season tickets, but I'm like, hey, you always look into it. But I even got an offer for those, and so it told me that they were desperate. Okay, let's go back to your point about maybe you need something like that to happen. The Texans went through it. Now, complete culture change. The owner listened to the fan council. The uniform, I'm going based on uniform part right here. They based it off on the city. Okay. Then you drafted well. You got your star quarterback. You got some pieces that you needed, right? And guess what happened this past season? There was more attendance. There were more people on the stadium than there were the season prior and the season before that. They had a culture change. They did the right thing. They listened to the fans, and more fans started going. They started buying the merch. The Texans did what needed to be done. What can we do on the football side of things?
Talk about it on your show. Get people to express themselves to the organization. People come to me all the time saying things, but I tell them, listen, you have to talk to the organization because that's where you have to go. And I think communication is important. Communicating with the fan base is important. It can't just be social media. You have to get out in front of people, and it can't just be the same season ticket holders. Yes, you have to definitely work and assess and make sure that you're taking care of your season ticket holders because of their commitment. It's a contract between you and a club, no question about it. But the organization needs a face, in my opinion. Needs a face. It hasn't had one since Oliver Luck. It needs a face that understands the game, that can go out in the community, talk any level of soccer, can listen, be an exceptional listener, because the youth soccer relationship is not a good one either. Very, very bad deal in the past before Ted Siegel took the team over that Chris Kennedy cut with another guy that created this Dynamo Dash, which was an assault on the youth soccer community. It was a huge, huge mistake. Pat Onstad has wisely gotten out of that. You don't compete with your own soccer community and strip them of players and things like that. You are there to be the guiding light from above, and you're spreading your wings to encompass everybody and support and help everybody as a professional soccer club. So that created a lot of angst, and these coaching directors were not at the time on board. That needs a lot of reparations out there and repair. Yeah. And I don't know what's being done with that. But these are all the real meat and potatoes issues that nobody wants to talk. No, but the only person talking about it is moi, and it gets me in trouble. I don't want to sit here and pretend. I'm not a pretender. I'm a guy that wants to be in reality. And like I said, it hurts me, and it hurts a lot of people not to see the MLS product and NWSL product at a higher echelon, and where it should be. And that means filling seats, having relevancy, pushing the media to do more, and creating relationships with them, and making this equally a stronghold like the international content that comes through.
The last time you were here, we were talking about like what was going to be the impact of Messi in the MLS, and at one point I felt as time went on, I thought to myself, we were all excited over it, and I thought to myself, I think it'll be fine for a few years, and then what? What happens after the Messi's out? Do we go back to what the MLS was before? Because he's going to put in seats wherever he goes. That's a fact. But what happens once he's out? Are we going to keep signing guys like that?
Oh, I think Inter Miami is certainly going to go after big stars. You bet. And Messi's not going to be the last big star and big name that can turn things, although to replicate him is going to be pretty difficult.
Right.
Quite honestly, to replicate Caitlin Clark in the WNBA relative to their situation, this is a golden opportunity for them.
It is. You take
what this young lady has done, and I know the old players are upset and all, but this is about a single player that's bringing the eyeballs and change to an entire league.
I agree with that.
Which is what you want. Like,
because
don't fight it. Don't fight it. Don't embrace it and roll with it. She's making things better for you.
There was a comment on YouTube, on Twitter, and I usually don't generally like mention it, but this one was funny. It got me going. It said before Clark, like, I didn't know who most of these people that were pushing her or hitting her were, if it wasn't for that. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for Clark, I wouldn't know who these people were that were pushing her or shoving her. So
she got me fully engaged singularly by the way she plays the game.
Yeah.
How competitive she is, but the variety of skills she has. So it's like me when I watch a soccer game. I don't know how I like watching the skilled players that orchestrate a game, like a Messi, like a Hector Herrera with the Dynamo. I like watching those players.
Yeah.
So in basketball, if you're 6'7" or 6" and you're under the basket, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your skill and talent, but I like the vast array of skills that a playmaker brings. So Caitlin Clark's passing ability is off the chains. Her passing, she did the Steph Curry thing in college. That's still going to potentially translate into the WNBA, but it's a variety of things. She gets rebounds. She pushes the thing up the floor. She's still having to figure the league out. It's a great story. Run with it, embrace it. But it's just amazing how quickly humans can turn jealous and envious, and potentially with women's sports when there was such a push for women's sports. There was Title IX, all these things. Male, females pushing for the game. And now we get to this point where you have this amazing college athlete who's 22, by the way, is equally amazing in front of the media, says the right things, was respectful to all the ex-players in the league. And now you have this player that really is elevating things. And then you see real human nature come out. Now it's about me. I need attention too. Well, it's not just about her. In essence, it isn't just about her, but it is, in essence, about her when it comes to platforming this league into the eyes of unique potential fans. All of a sudden, you're riding charter flights now. All of a sudden, TV ratings are through the roof, okay? And it's because of the game she's in.
Yeah.
Be honest with them, but don't ruin it. She's providing opportunities. Salaries can get better. Maybe now you're going to get a real TV deal. You're going to get real TV deals. And now you're going to be not only asking for money from NBA owners, but now you're going to be earning it. Okay. And now the light will get shined on everybody, and other players will learn about
jersey sales.
If it's done right. Yeah. Merchandise is crazy. It's crazy.
Glenn, it's always a pleasure when you're here, man. It's your stories are just overall, like, I'm hooked every time you're telling me a story, like things that I didn't know before that should be told, you know?
Yeah.
And I just gravitate towards them. I teach kids, so I feel like my students, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I feel like kids in school just sitting here trying to absorb all of it.
I love it. Like I love gaining new knowledge like that.
Well, we should have a lunch one time, and then I can tell you some stuff that's off the record. But
yeah.
Am I going to get a copy of this so I can edit out some of my comments tonight?
You're good. Don't worry. I'll make sure to cut you off if things get a little too spicy.
Maybe you need a third on your show. It might be my last ever.
I'll make sure. I got you. I got you. You're not going nowhere. I got you. I'll be like your whenever you come on this show, I'll be your publicist on this part. Just like, hey, can't say that.
I think you guys should come in the studio again sometime.
Yeah, let us know.
Definitely.
We
had a lot of fun the last time, and I like crossing it over. I did a little thing the other night with Caitlin Carr and Messi, because they're two uniquely different athletes. They're two different ages. But they're two people that are having incredible impacts on their respective leagues, right? In very differing, and very interesting ways. So it's good. Are we going to watch the second half of Mexico?
They're down 3-0 right now. I'm mad. I'm mad at them.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, it's at the half, and it's 3-0 Uruguay.
Yeah, it's over.
It's a beatdown right now. Yeah, it's 3-0 halftime right now. That's why I was like, I have. So as we're doing this, I'm watching it on one of my tabs, and I'm looking at it, and as we were talking Dynamo, I was like, I'm getting hurt here for all the things that we were talking about, and then I'm getting hurt again on the other side of my heart because Mexico now Uruguay.
No, it's not meant to hurt. I mean, I think we need these kinds of discussions, and thank you guys for the platform to have it, and allowing me to have a little bit of a platform on your show. And
appreciate you coming on. Seriously, this is why you do Soccer Matters. Like, this is the reason why
because it matters
to hear, because it matters.
We care.
Yeah, exactly. We care.
What's that saying? It's because we care.
It's because we care.
And we do.
We do.
And my whole life has been soccer. I don't know what it would have been without it. It's amazing how I got directed into it, and it's brought so much happiness and joy to my life. It's brought angst. It's brought, like anything. It brings you ups and downs, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, the last thing I wanted to ask you, you've said this on our show previously, but for since then we've gained a few new followers. But for those that may not know you, Glenn, what was it like calling World Cup games?
So it's again, I'm going to be 100% truthful here. I did 7, maybe even more, but I called them all out of studio. I never was actually ever on the first or second team over in a foreign country. I was supposed to go one time, and then a baseball announcer was hired, and I got bumped, and I had to stay home, and it was upsetting to me because I wanted to be there live. But listen, it's a huge responsibility. You understand the magnitude of it, and at the end of the day, you're calling a soccer match. You're not doing heart surgery or brain surgery, but to say you've done World Cups, I think puts me in unique company. I'm pleased to have been there. But I've always given my heart and soul to every game I call, whether it's a college game. I've done Real Madrid. I've done the Barcelona tour when they came to America. I did the Italian Serie A back in the day when I was really nurturing and learning play-by-play and moving from being an analyst. So, I've got a lot of memorable games. Now, I was in a lot of foreign countries calling games, World Cup qualifiers in Central America, and those were El Salvador, places like that, Guatemala. These were remarkable experiences. That I only wish that I had a phone that could take pictures back then, because I would have unbelievable stuff. I mean, I saw things that just were so good to balance my life and to make me appreciate things, and then to appreciate other cultures. It was remarkable. That's all I can say.
Carlos, you're muted.
I said, Glenn, sorry, there goes my technology. Glenn, I definitely would love to have that lunch, man. Me and Rios and you just hang out and talk some soccer. Those stories have to be wild, and I'm looking forward to those for sure.
Anytime. Might have to have a margarita with it, right?
Just one?
Or two?
Get a whole picture.
Right, I want the machine at the table. That's what I want.
Just wheel it over. Just leave it here.
Wheel it over. We got this.
I just want to make sure that people understand I am extremely optimistic about the game, but I definitely look at it. Your lens changes as things move, and I'm optimistic about it. I always am going to be optimistic, but I'm also going to be real about it, and I'm also going to give my truth for whatever it's worth. What's the sense of me coming on here for your podcast, disrespecting you and not saying anything, right? And just staying here flat. You're never going to invite me back again. That's for sure. And I even look for that with interviews on my show. I don't want people that are just going to toe a party line. And I always want to give people opportunity, but when I feel it's people that are just going to come on because they want to sell whatever they're selling, I avoid them now. I want people that appreciate coming on the platform. I buy the airtime. Most people don't know that. That means I got to scramble and go around and get sponsorship, which isn't easy. And there's a lot of times I don't have the amount of sponsorship, even though you hear a lot of names. So it's challenging. And I'm always looking for sponsors, and I'm kind of shamelessly promoting myself here. But I want people to know that, even radio, there's an evolution to being on the radio. I mean, I started on public radio, with a man named Dwayne Bradley, who gave me an opportunity at KPFT here in Houston to start talking soccer. And I said to him, man, look at the mission statement on the wall. Soccer fits it perfectly. But he had to go in and fight a board that didn't want sports, right? Can you imagine that? A sport that connects more people than probably any other, definitely connects more people than any other sport in the world.
It does.
But probably fits in the category of music and food, right? And soccer. Those are the three, I think, great connectors.
Yeah.
So anyway, these are great journeys. They only happen through time. And, 10 years from now, your lenses are going to be very different. You're going to have
I'm sure. Yeah.
unbelievable stuff going on.
We've done the show for 2 years now. We're 2 years in. It's not obviously, and this is just us that we just started just talking, because all we did when we hung out was talk sports. And then we're like, why don't we make it a thing? Why don't we just look into it or whatever? And we did. And the thing is, we went from talking. I started by talking by myself for no reason, and I had no idea what I was doing. Still don't. But then I got a buddy, and then we started talking. And then I got another buddy, and then we all three started talking. And then eventually we realized, how can we make it interesting? Then you start making little objectives for yourself. Or topics. This is what we're going to talk about this week, instead of just throwing whatever at the wall, whatever sticks. And as time has passed by in the last 2 years, we've learned to be a little bit more organized. Yes, my ADD still kicks in, and I just talk about random subjects here and there, like now. But at the end of the day, it's made it fun. We're able to have guests such as yourself, Glenn. We've had Texans players on. We've had all these people on, things that we never thought could happen. And that's in the first 2 years. So, as you said, your lens changed. In the first 2 years, what we thought we could do back then, I'm like, oh no, if we want to get serious about this eventually, we obviously have to change our perspective and the way we do things. We're glad that we're being seen, that we're part of our Esquina podcast network. We do another show over there called Bring on the Blitz, where we just talk NFL. But they looked into us and they liked what we do. And that's more of a little bit more professional, I guess, because we dive deep into analytics and things like that. And so it's growth. But sometimes as you read these things, as you go through interviews with people like yourself, and you take other people's perspectives, and you're like, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. You get a sense of a connection where you're like, I never thought of this way before, and that's why I love having guys like you on the show, because I'm like, wow, it's a different perspective than what I was thinking about. But your way, you have the experience, you have the knowledge. I see your point. I see your point, and I'm like, wow. So
the exciting thing about the medium, really.
Huh?
I mean, that's the exciting thing about the medium. I mean, I love radio and podcasts because, look at the discussion we've just. I mean, we could do a whole show just on radio, podcasting, delivery, organization. Things. The things about podcasts and radio that's fun is things change in a moment. Yeah, the other night I had Pat Onstad, lined up to be on the show. I'm getting my phone's dinging. Dynamo PR's calling me. Pat's Onstad is telling his PR guy, I'm ready, and we have phone lines that don't work. Now, what do?
Yeah.
You vamp, you quickly and confidently go into something else. You remind your listeners that you're working on the phone lines. You go to a commercial break, maybe early, you throw to it, and you just go through it. But these are all things, unless it happens to you, it's kind of hard to learn.
Oh yeah,
you don't bring out a manual. You're ready for it, and that's a fun place to be. And then at the end of the day, we couldn't get it fixed, and it doesn't look good on anybody, including myself. And I have to apologize to my listeners. And then I say, okay, we're doing it again Wednesday. And you know what I do? We're going to tape this thing because we ain't taking any chances this time.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's just simple stuff, but it's fun. Radio is fun. I like the new slot that I have for Soccer Matters on 97.5 because it's 6:00. And, you're getting some of the drive home people,
Yeah. Hey, that's me. I've called in once to your show, and we talked about Hector Herrera. And I was driving from work to here. I work, let's say, about 35 minutes from where I live. So, but with traffic, because I have that 6:00 traffic, that 35 minutes turns into about an hour. So what do? I'm listening to stuff. And, I'll call my fiance every once in a while. Right, honey? Love you. And so
here comes the skillet.
You flying towards me, the chocolate. Anyway, and so, we'll do that, but I'll listen. And, there's obviously, I listen to yours. Yours is one of the ones that I listen to because I'm like, it's no other show like it on radio right now. Like you give such a good insight to what's happening with a Dynamo. Like you're the best at it. And this is not me kissing your butt or anything, but you're the best at it. So
you're passionate about it. You can hear the passion.
As a fan, I can hear it and I can feel it. And why wouldn't you want to have a guy like that on that particular time listening to soccer stuff? And of course, again, glad that you're here on the show with us.
I don't think there's this is a guess, okay? So, but I don't think there is a soccer radio show on in any major market in the country on a 6:00 drive home time slot, which, I'm proud of that. I mean, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the people that have followed me all these years. They've listened. They've been incredibly supportive, and I want them to challenge me too. And I want, you guys, if there's something you don't like about a guest, challenge them. You can challenge me because that makes for great podcasts and radio, and not disrespectfully. We're not assassinating people's characters. I didn't do that tonight when I talked about the Dynamo.
No.
Anybody's character. It's about the things that this one person sees that maybe is missing.
Right.
That could be a big, big part of the solution. So anyway, we want to watch the second half, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Glenn, I appreciate it. Oh, do we? Well, for me,
no.
Yeah.
Glenn, I appreciate you being on the show. As always, guys, please follow Glenn at Soccer Matters GD. And then, of course, his personal account, which is it's at right there underneath Glenn at Glenn Davis SOC. Please follow him up for some amazing soccer content. If you are watching and you're in Houston, it got to be supported towards the Houston Dynamo. And Glenn has a lot of great content regarding the Houston Dynamo. No one else like him. Seriously, no one else like him in the city of Houston.
And if any of my listeners are out there, make sure you follow the Just Fans pod. All right.
Appreciate it.
Let's make this all go around, and we'll get you guys in studio. We'll get that lunch, and we'll keep it going. Thank you so much for having me on.
Still got your wine from Argentina.
What's that?
Still got your wine from Argentina.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, we'll bring that lunch.
That's right.
We could do an Argentine. We could do Patagonia and do some Argentine food. We could do Nikos and a good lamb shank with a bottle of red. There's plenty of ideas.
That's right.
You got me intrigued now.
There you go.
And hungry.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you.
All right, Glenn. All right, let me end the show. Just stick around really quick, and then I'll let you go. Okay, bud? All right, guys, that's going to be it for us. Check us out next Monday when we have the one and only Tyler Milner from Sports Radio 610 on the show. We'll be talking some Texans with him. All right, guys, that's going to be it for us. Thank you for checking us out. Again, follow Glenn Davis, as you see him there, at Glenn Davis SOC. And, of course, also follow him at Soccer Matters GD. Great football content. Thank you. Great guest overall, Glenn. And that's going to be it for us. All right. Do you want to say anything? Do you have anything else coming up, Glenn?
I'm on Instagram as well, but I've been putting up a lot of Rolling Stones video because I've seen them twice on the tour. So if you like music, there's some good videos there because I was up close. But yeah, Instagram, we do the same thing. And I would just say, in general, to everybody, if you like these programs, and at Just Fans Pod, and the likes, the hits, the comments, this all means a lot to sponsors. So that kind of stuff is important. So if you do like the content you're hearing, like it, comment, and help. The sponsors love seeing that stuff, and that's just kind of how the world goes around.
There you go. All right. And Glenn, are you guys on Odyssey? Is that correct? Odyssey up or no?
No, my podcast, you mean, or Spotify, Apple, Google, those places, ESPN 975. Honestly, there's a lot I could learn from you guys, I'm sure.
No problem. All right. No problem. All right. That's Glenn Davis for us, guys. Amazing guest. Telling it like it is and like how it should be. Guys, thank you again for watching us. See y'all next week. Peace.
Southwest A-League, Texas, throw down here and it's so infectious. We ride for the Houston Astros, Rockets, Dynamo, and them Texans. If you ain't never been down here, but rule number one, you gon' respect us. Just Fans in my speakers, new one drop, they bout to bless us. I might right through the SWAT, playing Just Fans right through your spot. Look,